Hello and welcome to a very special edition of The Form, counting towards the IRT New Zealand Trotting Cup. The big day coming up this Tuesday, the 118th running of the great race. Things a little bit different this year, obviously, with about 20-odd thousand less people at Addington Raceway than we would usually see, but the racing on the track is still going to be hot with the 12-race card, with race number 11 this year at 10 minutes to 6 on Tuesday, being the running of the IRT New Zealand Cup. A busy man, if not the busiest through Cup Week, is commentator Matthew Cross. Matt, it's always a very special day and another cup for you in your early years of being the main caller at Addington Raceway. There's not going to be as many people this year on track, but it's still going to be a massive thrill. Hello to you.
Yeah, hey Mark, hey to Whale as well. I was actually having a conversation with someone today about the fact of having no crowds on course. And yeah, as disappointing as that is, on the other hand, we're probably going to have more viewers on trackside than across our broadcast partners than we ever have on our entire Cup Week meetings. So there'll be a lot of eyes on the racing this week, and hopefully that means turnover for the clubs. It's disappointing for them that they can't get on track, but it is what it is here in the times that we're living in. But really looking forward to it, Mark. 10 minutes to 6 is where it all comes to a head for a lot of horses through their campaign. And look, the barrier draws coming out for the Cup this year have made things really interesting. So, yeah, looking forward to having a chat with you and Whale about a couple of our features today.
Bit of a shame that we won't be joined in Christchurch by our North Island participants in terms of our trainers and drivers, and also Craig the Whale Thompson inside the Auckland boundary. Whale, you've been to many cups. This is probably the first one in many years. You won't be there at live.
Yeah, Cookie, good morning to you and to Matt as well. Yeah, it's a shame, isn't it? I mean, you've got to do the right thing. I mean, there's plenty of other people that would want to be there, like Ray Green, like Tony Hurley, like Brett Mangos. They can't be there. We just got to abide by the rules, Cookie, and do what's best for the industry. I'm sitting back in my studio. I'll see as much as I can. You guys are going to relay it to me from the track, and I'm sure the trackside coverage will be 100% as it was on Kaikoura Cup Day with some marvellous footage. We'll use the drone, and we're going to have obviously Justin Evans on track as well to give us all the updates on what's happening around the stabling area. So things move on, Cookie, probably not in the way that we had a year ago. I think I've been there for the last 22 cups, so I'm there in spirit anyway.
Let's have a look at the market, of course, for the 118th running of the IRT New Zealand Cup. Things are already changing with the defection now of Pembroke Playboy. Sad news from the south, from the Nathan Williamson Barton, was going to be a potential leader in the race, of course. The favourite has come up, last year's winner in Self Assured. If Mark Purdon, Matthew, can win this race this year in the bike, he'll be equal with Ricky May as the most winningest New Zealand Cup driver. He's currently equal second with the great Cecil Devine. Certainly the draw has thrown up a pretty interesting scenario, and of course the fact that we had no cup trial on Wednesday either.
Yeah, it's hard without seeing the cup trial. Often we get a good guide with the cup trial, don't we? Horses generally miss the Kaikoura meeting and then go into the cup trial, so we don't really get a guide around him. They sort of cruised around at a modest speed at Ashburton and just run nothing more than a half, 53.2. I can't say that I've seen too many last 800 metres run quicker than that. But his preparation's been good, and one of the main things about him is that he's been picking the starts as good as he ever has, self-assured. Second row barrier draw makes it a little bit interesting in some ways, but there's a lot of horses drawn outside of him if he can pick the start. I mean, the horses on the front row. So if he's able to get a nice run through on the back of a couple of others earlier, he could be handier than what some anticipate with Self-Assured. And I think the key for him at the start is if he can punch through from the second row and get in front of Copy That. If he's able to do that, then he becomes the horse that they all have to beat. But if Copy That's able to roll forward and find the lead, then it makes it pretty interesting, Mark. But I think that the bookies have found him at his right price. Last year's winner. The market around South Coast Arden, I think, is okay. Copy That's price has sort of been backable right the way through. And Classy Brigade, I think there'll be plenty of support for him in the markets, particularly around those place and top four markets.
What's your opinion, Craig, on Self-Assured's Cup preparation this year?
Well, I think he's had a perfect preparation. Mark. I think, if anything, probably a better preparation than he had last year. If you look at that race on the 1st of October where he was promoted, and you look at that video, he was going to run past South Coast Arden anyway. After that, he's gone to Addington and then to Ashburton. I mean, he's 6th up. He's had 3 races, 2 trials this time in. He's had a faultless display of stepping away from a standing start. His manners are great. He's just ticking all the boxes for me. He's unbeaten at 2 miles. He's 3 from 3. We know he gets a strong 2 miles. He did that last year. You go back to this horse's form. When I look back and looked at his record for the last 12 months, since October last year, now that's 13 months, he's raced 13 times, 7 wins, 6 placings, never out of the money in his 13 starts in a year. I think where a few have had interrupted preparations, Mark, I think he's had the perfect preparation. I know the draws hindered him a little bit, but with the scratching of Pembroke Playboy, it hasn't changed the front row. He's still at this stage draw to fight, following out Vintage Cheddar. Remember, he is the only horse 2 off the second row. The other ones, South Coast Arden, Labour and Kango, they're wider out on that second row. So he has got manoeuvrability. If he doesn't want to follow out Vintage Cheddar, he can come a little bit wider. So it's not ideal, but it's just adding some value to your price, because I believe had he drawn the front row, Mark, he would have gone around $2 here.
And off that unruly draw, of course, speaking about South Coast Arden, you go back to the Kai Calder Cup last week, and Natalie Rasmussen, after South Coast Arden reared, almost out of the cart herself, luckily down at the almost right time to pace away. But Matthew Cross, you can't be having that in a New Zealand Cup if you're off the unruly.
Yeah, and he needs to settle a lot better than what he did in that run as well. He just pulled too hard during the middle stages when they backed it off. He's a free-going horse. I don't think racing in the field really suits him. His best go in life is if he can find the lead or get up outside of the leader. But yeah, I was a little bit put off by how much he got keen during that middle stages and with his antics at the start. I was sort of going into that race thinking, well, he's the horse to beat in the Cup, South Coast Arden, but there are 2 boxes that he didn't tick for mine at the start and with how he settled. For him to win the race, he needs to be fast away off the unruly. He needs to find the lead within the first half of the race. If he's in the field or without cover for the first half of the race, then I think it's game over for him. His best version will be if he can lead. Is the lead there if Copy That finds the top? Is the lead there if Self Assured finds the top? Maybe Self Assured would let him go. I don't know that Copy That would let him find the top if he found the lead, though, Craig. But I was just that tad put off, and my confidence was dented around him with those 2 aspects of his run last time.
Well, there's a couple of things out of it, Matthew. You're quite correct with his manners, because he's 50-50. I mean, he has come down in a pace, but he's reared at both occasions in his last 2 starts. And he's lucky enough that as he's reared and he's come back down, the tapes have gone and he's stepped away. The unruly was a natural place for him. They couldn't take him off it. On his last 3 starts. He had to start there. It's still not going to make him foolproof from stepping away. There's a couple of things you also got to think about. He missed that run at Ashburton because of a slight temperature. So that run the other day at Kaikoura will tighten him up. I think it'll be far better for it. I agree with Matthew. I think if there's a horse that's going to drift on the day, I think this one is going to be one. I think punters' confidence about him, I think prior to the Kaikoura Cup, they were right with him. They were hoping he did it right. If he stepped away and he won the Kaikoura Cup, there was going to be a lot of people thinking he would start near favourite in the Cup. I think there's a few that have swayed the other way. I thought he's racing really well. I mean, he ran the best half in the Kaikoura Cup. He ran a home in 55.2. So he certainly didn't let anyone down, but there are that manners concern. And I agree with Matthew. I'm not sure if the lead's there for him. And if it's not, sitting parked out over 2 miles is going to be uncomfortable.
Copy That started favourite in the race last year when the tapes went away, ended up finishing in 8th position, 3rd in the Homes DG as part of an all-northern preparation this year, and of course had the workout at Pukekohe last weekend. So a bit of a late arrival. Copy That. Matt, where do you place this year's North Island, well, one of the main contenders really, trained by Ray Green, of course, and with the southern driver, Blair Orange?
Oh, they'll be hungry. They'll be hungry. Merv and Meg Butterworth and Ray Green to get back to this race. There was a lot of disappointment with how the start unfolded for them last year. And this is their chance for redemption. So they'll be coming in hot here on picking Copy That. Both of his runs at Alexandra Park have been good. Another horse who is a colt, so with the more racing under his belt, he's going to get better. But it's been very untraditional through no fault of anybody. It's been so untraditional. Just the 2 runs at Alexandra Park, one over the 2200. Then he's had to start off 30 metres in behind Major Jealous last time. If you take tradition out of the question and you just look at it like it's a normal race coming in, you'd be thinking, yeah, that's a good enough preparation. But there's some horses in here that have had some hard racing for a solid couple of months now. I'm not sure if Ray Green's going to be able to get him as ready as some of the other on the track. If he does, it'll be hats off to him. It'll be a marvellous training performance, Craig, if Ray Green can get this horse to win the Cup. Drawn wide on the track, I think, is a massive plus for him. If he gets away, finds the lead, and he's ready, he can win. I hope they can pull it off, Craig, because I know that this will be a race they're coming into that they'll be looking to get the spoils.
Well, I think they have got the draw that they wanted, Matthew. I know the Butterworths wanted 5, 6, 7 or 8. They've got 8. Perfect draw for him. He didn't want to be on the inside, and he certainly didn't want to be on the second row. Totally agree with you. For me, it's not a preparation that I would want to go into a Cup with. I mean, he's had 2 races and 3 workouts, and one of those workouts he went around with one other runner, and that was on Saturday. As good as he went blistering, one of the quickest times I've seen at Franklin for a long time, 2:55 a mile and a half. It is not true race form. And the 2 races that he had at Alexandra Park were pretty slowly run affairs. The video we saw a minute ago of him winning the Spring Cup was very good, but he had the 1-1. He didn't have to peel around many runners, and it was a slowly run race. And then I thought he found the line okay in the Holmes DG. I mean, he got home off his back mark to hit the line quite nicely to run third, but Major Jealous beat him home, and Bad to the Bone beat him home. I think he could be the first one to the marker pegs because I do believe that wide draw will suit him. I think the only way he can win this race is to lead or trail. I don't see Copy That coming from back in the field and winning the Cup of 2021. But where he has drawn, and with the scratching of Pembroke Playboy, I could see him and Classy Brigade beginning quickly. And then I could see John Dunn looking across at Blair Orange and thinking, this is the perfect one to hand to. It's not a South Coast Arden who may hand to a Self-Assured, and I don't really want Self-Assured to be in front of me anyway. This horse following is the horse to follow because he'll get you there, and he's also got that susceptibility that he may be a run short, so you may get him up the passing lane. So, Cookie, to answer your questions, for me, he's absolutely top 4. For him to win the Cup this year, I think he needs first to make a good beginning, and secondly, to get to the market pegs in front of a couple of the main rivals. So he's absolute top 4.
Well, the other player that you mentioned there, Craig, of course, Classy Brigades. The last year performance ran 6th, made it 3 Kai Calder Cups just the other day. And yeah, with this scratching of Pembroke Playboy, Matt, this horse is going to be a real factor here in terms of the early to middle stages of the race. The old boy, the 8-year-old son of Bettis Delight.
He'll have a lot of fans, this horse, Mark, Classy Brigade. And if there is a Cup that Classy Brigade could win, this is it. We speak of things needing to go the way of Copy That. If Classy Brigade sits on Copy That's back and Copy That has to do a little bit of work, Classy Brigade might, get him for speed based on race fitness. If Self-Assured gets himself into traffic worries and the speed's got up front and he has to move on a hot tempo, I don't know necessarily that would be the undoing of him, but it's a favour to Classy Brigade. And if South Coast Arden botches the start or pulls during the run or has to sit without cover, again, it's a favour to Classy Brigade. So Classy Brigade versus the Big 4, there's actually a lot of favours to Classy Brigade. The fact that he's going to be the first one to the pegs, B, if he trails Copy That, he can win the race. I've got no doubt about it. But there will have to be a couple of things go against the others in the race. But on paper, it says that they can. He'll be a fan favourite, Craig, I'm sure, Classy Brigade. If there's one horse in Australasia that deserves a Group 1, it's Classy Brigade. He's won 21 out of 80. He's got a good record over the 2 miles, peaking at the right time. I know he's 8. In the old terms, he'd be 9. But I think he's a player this year.
Oh, absolutely, Matt. He is the bet in the race if you're wanting to take a top 3, top 4 option. He was like Kaikoura. He was the best place bet in the race, and he got the best trip, and he actually won the race. I think he'll be in the same spot as he probably was in the Kaikoura Cup. I think he'll be first to the market pegs. I mean, his record is outstanding. You wouldn't believe a horse hasn't won a Group 1. He's been 9 times placed at group level, 9 times, and hasn't won a Group 1. But when you're chasing Self Assured and you're chasing Lazarus in multiple races, you're running into 2 very good horses, and one of them's a champion. Self Assured's won a New Zealand Cup. He's a big player here. His Kaikoura Cup run was great. I thought his run at Ashburton was equally as good, because if you look at that Ashburton run, and we're looking at it now, you can see him dashing through on the inside here and getting him with a neck of Self Assured. Now, they run home at 53.2. There was, of course, there's probably a case to make to say that Self Assured went too slow, and it aided those horses trailing 3 back to slingshot up the passing lane. But those old legs, they went pretty good, and they went pretty quick, and then they've gone out a week later and end up winning a Kaikoura Cup. Absolutely ticks all the boxes. Great beginner, great stayer. Is he the best horse in the race? I don't think so. Is he in the right place to win a cup? Absolutely. He's got to be in your top 4. Really would love to see him win, because, as Matt said, there isn't a more justified Group 1 winner than Classy Brigade.
There's an up-and-comer in Laver coming into this with a really nice preparation from Jeff and James Dunn. Big recovery at Ashburton, bit of an eye-catcher after bobbing away. And then last week at Kaikoura really injected the excitement, Matt, into the Kaikoura Cup. What part will Laver play this year?
Well, we'll know after 100 metres, Mark, to be fair. If he steps, he'll be around them at some point. And one thing I'd say about Laver, I don't want to say I could almost guarantee it, but it's a massive chance. Laver will beat home more horses than beat him home. He's that sort of horse. The 2 miles, I think, really suits him. He loves the Addington Raceway. He's had a couple of good tightening runs. Ashburton missed away, beaten 3 lengths. Massive effort. Last time, did more work than anything else in the race, was only beaten 2 1/4. He's a genuine open class horse, this, based on the fact that he's such a good stayer. I just can't get out of my mind when he sat 3 wide off the track in the Jewels behind South Coast Arden and run 3rd. He'll look like he's flat, probably a lap out. Jared O'Reilly will have more of a sweat on than what the horse will, but he'll keep trucking. And if he steps, lands in the first 6, somewhere before or a bit after the mile, he'll just keep going, this horse, Craig. Lovely stayer. But the start, very much like a couple of others in the race, has been his Achilles heel. I'd just love to see him step. He'll really make this race.
Oh, he needed to be in this race. Like we said in the Kaikoura Cup, he makes the New Zealand Cup, Matt, because we need a horse that's going to move in a race. We don't want a sedately run race. And a few of the lead-up races, to be fair, have been, because we haven't had a Laver in there. We saw last week he was the first to move. He got round at the belly, pressured Classy Brigade, and he said, I want the front. And that actually won Classy Brigade's the race, because he got a bit of cover when he needed it, and he got him up the passing lane. My biggest concern is the barrier draw. I mean, when you draw the unruly, you're 20 lengths off them when they settle down. And that's giving a big head start to Classy Brigade, a big head start to copy that. And he may have Self Assured in front of him as well. So he deserves to be at the price he's at. I think 4,000 metres wouldn't worry him. 3,200 certainly not going to worry him. I just think a lot would have to go his way. I think they'd love to drive him with a sit, but because he's such a good stayer, they put him in the race. Maybe it can be a truly run first half of the race, and he doesn't have to work early. That would certainly aid him at the end of the race.
All right, Craig, here's the big moment. Your top 4 for the 118th IRT New Zealand Cup.
Just before I give you my top 4, Cook, there is one other horse I want to talk about, and that's Vintage Cheddar. And the reason I want to talk about him is because I think he's the best roughie in the race. Now, absolutely not saying he's going to win the race, but I reckon there'll be a top 4 market out or a top 5 market out come Monday. I thought his run in the Hannah Memorial was excellent. With the scratching of Pembroke Playboy coming out, he's drawn barrier 2. Steeler shows pretty quick away. I reckon he could possibly pop 3 the trail, 3 the fence, 4 the fence. His run in the Methven Cup when placed off a handicap over the longer trip was enormous. And if you go back to that Ashburton run, Pembroke Playboy was hard up the back of Self Assured. The horse that was hard up the back of Pembroke Playboy was Vintage Cheddar. He's $7 to run a place. Don't leave him out of your top 4. I really do like him as the best roughie in the Cup. My numbers 15, 10, 6, 2, and 15 in this year's Cup. Cookie, I'm with Self Assured. I think you said the ideal preparation. There's a few there they've got a query about. I'm worried about the draw. He's going to need luck, but he's not $2. And I believe if he drew the front, he would have been.
All right. How can you sum it up for us, Matt, your top 4?
Very similar to Craig, Mark, in terms of the first 3. I've got the identical first 3. Self-assured. If it's a genuinely run Cup, the best horse most of the time will win 9 times out of 10. If he gets a good speed up front, steps away, finds a good spot. Even if he's midfield with a lap to go, I'd still be confident of him with his speed to be able to pick them up. So he's on top to beat the 10. Copy that. As I say, if Ray Green can pull this off, hats off to him. 6 Classy Brigade, I think, with my heart. And for a horse that deserves to win a race like this, you've got to have him in. And South Coast started in for 4th, and not without a winning chance. And I think the other one that we probably should make mention of, Mark, and I've found a top 5 spot for him, is number 11, Henry Hubert. Thought his run in the Kaikoura Cup was good. He found the line like a horse who was full of fitness, and the wide barrier draw might not worry him either, drawn out there. So Henry Hubert, just keep a close eye on him. 4th in this race last year, and maybe one to include in your top 4 or 5s. But 15, 10, 6, and 16, I think, yeah, it's a Cup that I'm really looking forward to seeing what unfolds. There's a lot of intrigue this year.
Yeah, good to see Henry Hubert off the unruly and improving ever since, of course. Similar numbers to you as well, Matt, apart from switching around South Coast Arden. Still got South Coast Arden in for 3rd, ahead of Classy Brigade and runner number 6, 15, 10, 16, and 6 for me in the IRT New Zealand Cup. Of course, we always look forward to the running of the Sire Stakes, the Group 1, courtesy of Woodland Stud. And the barrier draws, as we look at the market, it really determines things. It's hard to have a punt on your futures all in until these barrier draws are done. And now they've thrown up, boys, Craig, it's really thrown up an intriguing contest, most notably where the top 2 favourites have drawn.
Well, it's where you wanted them to draw. I mean, you wanted the 2 best horses to have good draws, and they've got that. Now, Willow Bay's a ballot as we speak. We're recording this before the weekend, and he'll more than likely come out. That'll put Republican Party in 1 and Franco Indy in 3. So they're drawn beside each other here, Mark. I'm very keen on Franco Indy. I think he was one of the best bets of the day. It's funny, prior to the barrier draw, he was $1.70. Now, the barrier draw comes out and he draws barrier 3 and he's $1.90. So he's actually drifted in the market. I don't know why. I know Republican Party's drawn inside him, but I thought he has been dominant in his wins. If you go back and have a look at this Ashburton win that we're showing now, you can see him coming back in the field from the 1,000 metres to sit parked out. They run a 152 last mile. He looks across at Jimmy Curtin, Mark Curtin, said, I've got you covered on Blame It on the Night, and races away to a dominant victory. Then he goes to the Cup Day trials on Wednesday. So I put a clock on him on Wednesday. I thought, he's gone good again, just looking at what he's run, because he hadn't hooked him out the 150 metre mark. He's run his last mile 157. I've got him 56.5 home and 27.2, and he never pulled out to the 100 metre mark. If you want an ideal preparation leading into the Sire Stakes, I think he's had it. And he's had to win it from different ways. The 3 wins this season have come from back in the field, from in the trail, and from back in the field. He's not a one-trick pony. Doesn't have to lead. Got a good draw. I think there'll be moves in the race. If he doesn't find the front, he's handy to the speed. Either way, clear top pick for me, Matt, in this year's Sire Stakes.
I don't think the lead's there for him, Craig, to be honest with you. I think that if Blair Orange goes out and hands up the lead on Republican Party, he's basically handing the race to Franco Indy. So I think he'll go out with the mindset of, the only way I'm going to beat Franco Indy is if I lead up and try and control the race. And absolutely, Republican Party can win this. Mammoth effort last time. He's had to come 9,000 wide after drawing the outside of the gate and behind Sounds of Cash. Blistering closing splits for him. I think he'll lead. If he hands up to Franco Indy, he's handing up the race because he can't beat him up the lane. Republican Party in front. Franco Indy rolls across, finds the park spot early. potentially gets a bit of cover behind Major Perry. If that does happen, then Franco Indy can win. I think they'll run the Quinella, Craig. That'll be the way that I'll be playing it. Lock in the fixed odds Quinella. Republican Party, Franco Indy would just about be the best bet of the day for mine.
Yeah, it's going to be an intriguing contest, and maybe those who want to play those Quinellas and fixed odds exotics, good opportunity to do it here. Craig, it was a wee bit off the gate last week, was Republican Party, but then those big, fast last half and quarter, best of the day for the Pacers to run second at Kaikoura last week by Bettor's Delight at a Democrat Party, so the Southern breeding. What do you make of this guy?
Oh, he's clear. Super horse. He's drawn a good barrier draw. I think there'll be plenty of pressure in this race, and I'm not saying Franco Indy's going to lead this race. I don't see that happening. But I've been in a lot of sire stakes in the last 20 years where barrier draws have looked good on the paper to start with, and there's a lot of pressure in this race. And I do think there will be pressure. I believe Republican Party will lead early, and he may lead the entire 1980. But there's enough moves in the race with all-stars runners in here that he's just not going to sit there and run a 30 middle quarter. That just won't happen because there's going to be horses like Major Perry that will want to come across. Casino Action, the stablemate, probably wouldn't want to go back. And then you've got Can't Find a Better Man who's punching through from the second row, and he likes to be on the speed as well. So I agree with Matt. He'll be in front early on. It's just how much pressure he gets to soak up inside the 1980. He's clear second pick for me. He can win the race. He was very good last start. He was driven cold. He went back from the draw, and that took him out of the race. Prior to that, it was great beating My Ultimate Chevron, and he beat Fernley Cash. I do think Franco Indy has had harder races and in better fields. So it's going to be a great challenge on Tuesday afternoon, how these two unfold. But what I can say is they're two very good 3-year-olds. The draw would be beside each other. There'll be no excuses.
And Blame It on the Night comes from the North Island. Wasn't favourite when the horse won its heat of the Sires stakes at Cambridge, defeating Major Perry, and then came to Ashburton on the trip down south, Matt, and contested the Ashburton heat and placed him behind Franco Indy. The draw not quite on his side, though.
Well, it's going to be a contrasting run to what he had at Ashburton last time, where he had to work hard from barrier number 8. He's going to get a suck into the race, likely, and I think he's a real nice horse, this, Blame It on the Night, and I'd love to see him with the way that they did drive him. They had to drive him like that at Ashburton. Coming off a sit, coming from a good speed, Blame It on the Night. He's a nice horse. Beaten only 3 lengths at a 151-mile rate last time. He'll be an improver off that. Big track, I think, will certainly suit him as well. If he can get onto the train at the right time, Jim Curtin, then he's a player in terms of your trifectas and first fours, Blame It on the Night. He would be the best of the others outside of the 2 favourites for mine, Mark, I think. Colt by Bettor's Delight. He'll just keep getting better with racing too.
And for you, Wale, what were your thoughts on this North Islander for Tony Hurley? He got another nice one.
Well, he's untapped at this stage, Mark. That's all I'd say. He's untapped. And the reason I say he's only had 3 starts. He's won 2 of them, including a Cambridge heat where he had to sit parked out, and he beat Major Perry. Major Perry goes to Auckland and wins the next heat. So that form's been franked. Then he goes to Ashburton, drew the outside of the gate, had to go back, ends up going round to lead, and being run down by a horse that's starting now $1.90 favourite. Obviously, the barrier draw hinders him, but he could work mid-stages to get outside them and be there at the right time. I think he's very, very good. He's out of a good mare. I think Suzanne Hurley, he's got a share in this one. The Greens own him. I'd love to see this bloke be somewhere near them at the 400 because there's one horse that I do believe will get a strong 1980 is him because he's out of a very good race mare and she was very tough. So clear top 3 for me, Mark.
Major Perry comes in with the 2 North Island runs. So comes down south to contest the first time this campaign in the big Group 1, Matt, but of course is placed here at Addington before.
Yeah, was beaten by Blame It on the Night 2 starts ago at Cambridge. He did a bit of work off the gate, Major Perry. Was a nice enough effort, but Blame It on the Night's moved mid-race, sat outside him and beat him by 3/4 of a length. The thing in his favour on that sort of head-to-head is the fact that Major Perry draws the front row. Blame It on the Night drawn the second row. Beautiful-looking horse. Did a good job as an early 2-year-old, and I think with his 2 runs back this time, he has been an improver. The Barry Purdon Scott Phelan factor will take him a long way. He'd make my top 4, I think, Major Perry. From where he's drawn, could get handy early. And if he's able to slot across, find a spot without having to do too much work, then he's going to be a chance, Craig. He's a nice horse. His record speaks for itself. Placed in group company in the past. Where did you have him?
I've got him in my top 4, Matthew. Again, I think the Northerners have had a hindered preparation, and maybe he's probably a run shorter than where he'd want to be, Matthew. But I thought his 2 runs have been quite good. If you go back to his performance when he was in Christchurch in the early part of the winter, he was placed behind a Cooter in the Harness Millions, and he was second behind a Cooter in the Harness Jewels. Now, there's no Akuta here, but there's 2 very good replacements in Franco Indy and Republican Party. He's got the good draw. I haven't got a driver down from. I'm predicting it'll be Colin De Philippi, but there isn't a driver there for him at this stage. He'll drive, obviously, the stablemate Bad to the Bone in the Cup. But I think he's a horse that's done enough and has got enough credentials, Cookie, to suggest that he deserves to be right in the mix here. He's got a nice barrier draw. He's been at Addington in the past. He's soaked up big group races. I can't knock the horse.
Can't find a better man, trained by Graham Anderson and Mike Love, ultra consistent. Draws the second row, a couple in the second row. The son of Sweet Lou, he's a gelded son. And of course, he was pretty good at the Cup trials, beating another nice 2-year-old from Nathan Williamson's mat in Sandwave just a couple of days ago.
Yeah, well, what do you do at the start? There's 2 options here with this horse. Yes, they've been wanting to drive him on speed. He's likely to settle following out Franco Mack. Midfield, the running line. There'll be a 3-wide train early. Does he get on that and move around, have to cover more ground? Or do they take an opportunity to try and slot 3 back on the pegs and hope that Republican Party leads the entire way? You sit 3 back the inside. Could the pegs be the place to be? I don't know. That's just one scenario that could unfold. And look, with where the favourites have drawn, I know that Craig speaks about barrier draws, like on paper, it looks easier than what it might be. But the pegs could be the place to be here, and that's going to bring horses like My Ultimate Chevron into the race as place players. Certainly good enough, can't find a better man. Love how he's improved through his preparation. Good enough to do some work. Can he work 3 wide middle stages and win the race? Probably not. Can he run a drum? Yes. Would I be playing him in trifectas and first 4s? Under a couple of circumstances, yes. Had he drawn the front row and was going to find the lead early, he becomes a great place play. But he's not there. To the second row, I think he'll settle midfield, Craig. Likely that he's going to have to move at some stage of the race, and it just might not suit his racing style as well as what it does when he's able to lead.
I think he'll be 3 the fence. I don't think they'll take the chance of him punching through on the back of Franco Mack. I think they would have loved him to draw in the front row with his natural gate speed. That put him in play. But just on the way the map looks, it looks Republican Party to lead for an early part of the race at least, or majority of the race more likely. That puts My Ultimate Chevron on the trail. If I'm Matthew Williamson and I'm looking this race, 3 back on the fence is probably not the worst place to be. And if My Ultimate Chevron does what it does and ducks to the passing lane, I'm coming through and getting a run through and I get my chance. I don't want to be going around them in this race. I think that's a hard task for I can't find a better man. Didn't mind his Cup Day trial. I thought it was okay. He trailed and got round to the front on his last mile, 157. I think he's hindered by the second row. I think they'd love the front row, 3 the fence, not the worst place to be. Absolutely top 4, top 5 chance.
Franco Mack was another winner at the Cup Day trials a couple of days ago, beat Socrates there. You got a space for this guy in your top format?
No, I don't, Mark. To be fair, Franco Mack, I much favour his stablemate Franco Indy. Nice gate, right driver though, Natalie Rasmussen. Craig, I'm sure he'll have plenty of support, but there might just be a couple of others in here with better credentials.
Yeah, I think so, Matthew. The only thing I would say about Franco Mack, and he's let me down numerous occasions. We have a bit of a love-hate relationship, me and Franco Mack. We're not really friends at the moment, but he's a horse that last start put in his best performance because he did sit parked out in that race that Franco Indy won. And they run home in 54.4. Then he's gone to the Cup Day trials and actually surprised a few with his gate speed. So I wouldn't be surprised, barrier 3, you've got Republican Party drawn inside, you've Willow Bay's not there. You're not going to go back from barrier number 2. So I'm not thinking that they'll be taking a step backward with him. I think he could run top 5. He's let me down in the past, but there's just enough there to suggest that maybe he's on the upward spiral at the moment, Mark.
We'll get your summation now, Craig, for the 2021 running of the Woodland Studs Sire Stakes.
Well, I've been a massive fan of Franco Indy coming through, and I'm not suggesting that anything's done changed in the last 2 weeks, especially with the barrier draw at the moment. I've clearly got him on top of Republican Party. He's got the right draw to lead or trail. Either way, he's a winning chance, and Blair Orange's got to sum this race up very quickly at the start. So 4 to beat 2. I think the Northerners have got a chance of running top 3 in this race. Both Blame It on the Night and Major Perry I give chances to run top 4. So I marked it 4, 2, 13 and 5 in the Sire Stakes, Cookie.
And Matt, almost everybody's Quinella in this race. How did you see it?
Yeah, I'll be playing that Quinella. That would just about be my suggested best bet of the day. I think the 4 and the 2, which way around, you could take the exactor and get a little bit more. Franco Indy have gone with him on top. I think that he'll posse up one off, if not have a crack for the top. And the way that he's run, boy, he's good. Franco Indy. Explosive turn of foot off the back of doing some work on a couple of occasions. 2, Republican Party. He'll give you a sight for a long way. Can he win the race? Yes, most certainly. 5, Major Perry. I think he's quite a nice stayer, this horse. And the more time that he gets under his belt, he'll put together a good record over his career. And 13, Blame It on the Night. Put him in the top 4. And my ultimate chevron, just how the race is going to map, drawn one on the second row, Sapling Stakes winner from early on in the season would be a must include. So 4, 2, 5 and 13 mark in the Woodland Studs Sire Stakes final at 6 minutes to 4.
And I've gone 4, 2, 3 and 10. Hopefully there'll be a spot for Franco Mac in there, and hopefully Can't Find a Better Man can get a decent run through, but maybe a case of your top 4, top 5 bets around the Anderson Love trained runner. Let's move on to our featured trot on the first day of the Addington program. It's with thanks to Livermole. It's the Trotting Free-for-All, the New Zealand Trotting Free-for-All at Group 1 level. It's a race that next season will be moved to early December. At the moment, it's a lead-up towards the Dominion, but it will be run post-Dominion next season, Craig, and that result with a couple bypassing this race to make their way to Friday in the Dominion straight away. It's left us with a field of 8 with the speedy horses staying around.
Yes, probably a discussion for another day, Cookie, but maybe this programming of having this race on Tuesday as against the Friday, as I said, maybe a discussion for another day whether they look at rescheduling this, because to be fair, 8 runners for $100,000 at Group 1 level, slightly disappointing for the club. And saying that, we've got 3 very good horses, or 3 or 4 very good horses that are competing. Bolt for Brilliance for me, Cookie, I'm going back to his Jules run, because that was a dominant performance that day at Cambridge. He overcame a second row draw, as we're seeing in this video now. He got round. It was a beautiful drive, Tony Hurler. He dominated them. And then the 2 runs that he's had back so far, I give them a pass mark in both. I think the 4th at Addington was quite good behind Sunday's Sun. He was obviously a run short. And then he went to Ashburton, and things didn't obviously pan out from the draw. Back, they sped a very quick last mile at Ashburton over that 1,700 metres, and he was no chance. I noted Jimmy Curtin advised the stewards after that run, Cookie, that he'd been treated for a cough. So maybe things weren't 100% with him at that point. He's got barrier 3. He's got a little bit of gate speed, but it's a really quick front row here. The Dominator, Majestic Man, they both can fly the gate. He's no given thing to find the trail, but on credentials, I think he's the best horse in the race, and he'd be clear top pick for me.
He's a son of Muscle Hill, Matt. He's won a couple of times at Addington. He's made it count here, the Jules winner. What say you?
I'd love to see them really push the button with him early and drive him like the best horse in the race. Go hard out of the machine, lock them, lead. He's the best horse in the race, and I'm not a driver myself, but on paper, I don't see why they can't try and have a crack and hold them out early on Bolt for Brilliance. He's got enough speed, I think, to at least poke through. And, yeah, how much do they want to pressure? If Jimmy Curtin keeps kicking up, they're going to undo themselves. If he leads Bolt for Brilliance, I think he'll win. Best horse in the race, and he's not without a chance in the big one on Friday either. He's really good, Bolt for Brilliance. And look, I don't think that there's too much between them and Muscle Mountain on their careers last season. Muscle Mountain's come back and shown plenty of brilliance. If Bolt for Brilliance is able to assert some dominance in this race, then it makes Friday's race a little more interesting. I'm intrigued to see how Jimmy Curtin drives this horse. I'd love to see him pressure him a little bit. And saying that, with views to Friday, you don't really want to undo them at the same time. Best horse in the race, is he a bet, Mark? Yes. I think the race will suit him no matter which way you look at it. I just don't want to see Jimmy get too far off the speed with him. If he's 4 or 5 lengths off a horse like Majestic Man who leads over the sprint trip, or an Oscar Bonavina, then it's going to make it hard. Get him handy, get him into a rhythm, and I think he'll win.
Well, we know where Majestic Man's going to be, as you said, going to be out there in front, and it's going to be pretty hard to run down if he does get there. But he was run down by Muscle Mountain at Ashburton, Craig. He's had the 4th since then, of course, over the less preferred distance, the longer course. Majestic Man, Brad Williamson, he's drawn to the outside of Bolt for Brilliance, but he's always one you've got to have in these short course races.
Yeah, well, as you look at this video and you see him at Ashburton, he was flying. I mean, it takes a very good horse to get past you when you're running those sectionals, and Muscle Mountain is a very good horse. And he franked that by going on and obviously winning on Kaikoura Day. His sectionals out of his last start at Addington after that run were brilliant. He actually ran the best splits out of that race. He ended up only running 4th, but he actually ran the best half and the best quarter. That's not normally Majestic Man's go, because Majestic Man's normally a front runner, and yet he came from back in the field to pass a few and ended up running 4th. I have no doubts he'll lead this race. I go back to his Inter-Dominion Carnival at Auckland, where he crossed him from 7 over 1700 against some of the fastest trotters in Australasia. So I think he'll lead. It's how much petrol he burns to get there, but he'll only be going one spot. I do think he can win the race. I think Bolt for Brilliance is a better horse. Tricky race. 290 is short enough for me, Cookie. I think Bolt for Brilliance is 270 is a far better price. I'd love to see him win for the Griffin Syndicate, but I've got him second selection.
All right, Matt, similar situation for you?
Yeah, I've got him in 3, Majestic Man. Just wonder if, I mentioned it pre-start before his most recent run the other day, that I just wonder if he might take sort of 4 or 5 runs to find his full peak. We saw him over in Australia last year. It was just low flying, and he'd had 6, 7, 8 runs under his belt by then, and he was just rock hard fit. Older horse now, 4 runs under his belt, back off the mobile start. He can win the race, but he's not at a backable price. I think Craig hit the nail on the head. If he was $354, happy days, I'd be willing to take it. But there's just not enough in that price for me to be backing him. Mark, top 3, yes. Can he win? Yes. Is he a bet? Not at the price.
I thought Oscar Bonavina's run fresh up was fantastic. It was massive to run 5th coming from behind there, and then the 4th wasn't too bad, of course, over the Ashburton 1700 metres, and was a Cup trial winner a couple of days ago too, Craig. I think he's really getting back to something as he was when he was younger. Probably not, but he's certainly had a very good preparation.
It's probably the forgotten horse, isn't he, Cookie? Because, 18 months ago, we were talking about him like we're talking about Muscle Mountain at the moment. But that's what happens. You peak and you drop, and then you peak and you drop. And at the moment, he's not a horse we're talking about, and he's flying under the radar. I thought his Ashburton run, I didn't give it a pass mark. I thought he didn't run past a runner. I know Mark said in the media that he thought his 3rd run back would be his best run. Well, guess what? This is his 3rd run, and it's a Group 1. I think it's a race that they've targeted. I thought his Cup Day trial was very good. I got him home 57.5. Beating Majestic Chick, I thought he did what he had to do. There was only 3 in it. I thought it was an encouraging trial. It was a building trial. My problem with him is, where is he going to posse up in this race? Because he ain't going to be finding the front, and I'm not seeing him posing the 1-1 from that draw. So is he good enough to sit parked out and win a Group 1? It's a pretty hard way to find out. So I think he's in 3, because I do think he's certainly heading in the right direction. I think he's a lot fitter. I just think there's a couple of horses drawn inside him that'll make him very difficult for him. Matt, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, he's a top 3 contender, but I'm not saying he's a one-trick pony, but in a Group 1 race like this, with the pressure, he'll need to be driven with a sit if he's going to win the race. First up, he was good. He didn't do near as much work as what Bolt for Brilliance did in that run. He wasn't able to get past Bolt for Brilliance. Bolt for Brilliance has a much better draw than him. Bolt for Brilliance is going to settle in front of him. and Bolt for Brilliance probably has as much speed as him. So on a head-to-head basis between Bolt for Brilliance and Oscar Bonavena, there's a lot of favours to Bolt for Brilliance. So for that reason, I've swayed ahead of Oscar Bonavena with the Bolts and gone 3 to beat 7. But if there's a lot of pressure up front and Bolt for Brilliance finds himself in any sort of trouble, maybe having to race parked with an Oscar Bonavena on his back, then it brings him into the race. But I think it'll be circumstantial. He'll need the speed on. He'll need to find a spot early. Is he backable? Top 3, yes. Maybe not for the win price. If I got him in 3, yes. But he's going to need things to go his way.
The rest of the field is made up by a former Trotting Oaks winner in Vacation Hill. You've got Midnight Dash and One Apollo and the Dominator as well, Craig. What was your summation of some of these other runners in the race?
I think Vacation Hill, just where she's drawn, has to be a chance at the very deep end of your first 4. I don't see her winning the race, but from her draw, possibly trailing through the fence, short way home. Trialled Cup Day was okay, beating Majestic Lavros, who's race day rival here. So I give her a tick as a top 4 chance. The Dominator, love to see him go, a great one. Craig Thornley's nearly on a magical milestone at the moment, and this will nearly bring him to that 700. I probably think his gate speed's good enough, but again, would he get across Majestic Man at the start? Probably not. Midnight Dash is the interesting one because we're not talking about him, and yet he was only, a neck and a half a length away from Muscle Mountain, Majestic Man at Ashburton, and he wasn't bad behind Muscle Mountain in a sprint home the other day. I mean, Sunday Sun couldn't close in on Muscle Mountain. Midnight Dash probably run very similar splits, and we're not talking about him. The reason why is because the stablemate gets so much kudos. I've got him in running in my top 4 cookies. So summarising, Bolt for Brilliance clearly on top over Majestic Man, Oscar Bonavena and Midnight Dash.
And Matt, your 4 numbers in this year's running of the Livermore Trotting Free-for-All.
Yeah, I'm similar to Craig. I think Bolt for Brilliance is in a class of his own, to be fair. Look, he's probably one of the favourite of mine, Bolt for Brilliance. I'd love to just see Jimmy get him in the right sort of spot and he'll run over top of them. 7, Oscar Bonavena with the right sort of passage. 6, Majestic Man, he'll lead you for a long way. And the 5, Midnight Dash, the best of the rest. And yeah, Vacation Hill off the inside needs to be included if you're playing into first 4s. One Apollo probably not going as well as what he has in the past. And he's got a bit of a tricky gate. So 3, 7, 6 and 5 for the first of our Cup Week Group 1s, Mark, on the trotting caper, the Livermore Trotting Free-for-All.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet that hopefully Oscar Bonavena will get a decent run through. So I'm keen to go with him. Over Bolt for Brilliance, would love to see him win to continue this run of these extended season 4-year-olds, of course. Majestic Man and Midnight Dash as well. He's always a top 4 chance, top 5 certainly in this 8-horse field for a Group 1. Well, those are our features on the program, but all 12 races are available at tab.co.nz for Cup Day 2021. Craig Thompson, if you're having a bet on some of the other races on the day, what can you narrow down for us for those who are having a look now for Tuesday?
Oh, later in the program, I really like Phil Williamson's trotter, Loving the Port. Brad Williamson drives. I think they've set it for this race. Very tricky rating band for him, and I think they've waited and bided their time to get to this race, being a rating 52. It falls in beautifully in a 45 to 54. I think he's a very good 3-year-old. He's had 3 trials. The last trial was against the Pacers the other day. He was $3.80s into about $3 as we speak, Mark. But I like him later in the program. Race 10, number 3, Loving the Port.
And Matt, anything else on the program that you're narrowing down as one of your bets of the day?
I think bookies have missed one, Mark. I really think that they're throwing you a decent old bone with one horse in race number 9 on Tuesday. And I'd be happy to take the price on the each way around $10 for number 5, New York Minute. Massive drop in class. You go back 3 starts ago, finished hard on the back of Terry, who's heading around in the New Zealand Cup. Never got to go. Next run to the races, 2 lengths behind Deny Everything off the tapes. Last start drew the outside of the second row, and a race dominated by those up front. Never got a chance to get into it. Front row barrier draw. First good gate for quite some time here in the south. Massive drop in class. How this horse isn't favoured in race number 9, I do not know. I think it'll win, and you're getting $10 on the each way.
I'm very keen in race number 6 on Deny Everything. He's certainly an up-and-comer. He's smashed everything in his path on the way. Mark Jones was even considering at one stage the junior free-for-all for him, but no, I'm going to target the rating 75, he says. So I'm very keen on Deny Everything. Had the tune-up trial a couple of days ago. Samantha Rotley, Mark Jones, I think that's the one for me in race number 6 as one of the bets of the day. Gentlemen, we can't wait. It's the 118th running of the IRT New Zealand Cup. We look forward to all of the trackside coverage on Tuesday. And a reminder, head to tab.co.nz with all of the markets open now and get involved in 2021 New Zealand Cup Day. That's it for the Forms IRT New Zealand Cup special. We'll see you on Tuesday.